It was our anniversary, a day I had been looking forward to with anticipation. Every year, my wife and I made a tradition to do something meaningful for each other, a way of celebrating not just a date, but the bond we shared. I always look forward to it, but this year was unlike any before. She wasn't home. Instead, she had gone to her father's house to care for him. I understood her sense of duty and compassion, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed her by my side. I longed to see her, to hold her, to share the day together as we always had. So, I decided to turn the situation into a surprise. I carefully planned everything. My arrival, the flowers I would bring, and the way I would walk through the door to make the day unforgettable. I imagined the smile on her face, the joy in her eyes, the warmth of being together after some time apart. I thought I was about to give her a memory worth cherishing forever. But what I didn't realize was that I was walking into a moment that would change my life completely, not with joy, but with heartbreak. When I reached her father's house, my heart was light, filled with excitement. I could already feel the embrace, hear the laughter, and taste the love I thought was waiting for me. But as soon as I stepped inside, that warmth evaporated. The house was unnervingly quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes from rest, but the kind that hints at something being wrong. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating. My heart began to pound as I walked further in, heading toward the living room where I expected to find her with her father. Instead, I froze. What I saw was not what I had prepared myself for. My wife wasn't sitting with her father at all. She wasn't even alone. There was a man standing beside her, far too close, far too familiar. The comfort in their posture, the way they occupied the space together. It was obvious that this wasn't the first time he had been there. He was no family member. That much was clear. My mind spun wildly with questions. Who was he? Why was he here? What was happening in front of me? Before I could move, the man looked directly at me and smiled. It wasn't a casual smile. It carried an intimacy that didn't belong to a stranger. My wife turned at that exact moment, her eyes locking onto mine. Her face drained of color instantly, as though she had been caught in the middle of a secret she had desperately hoped would never be exposed. She stumbled over her words, trying to explain, but it didn't matter. The truth was written across her face, and it struck me harder than anything she could have said. The man backed away slowly, like someone who knew he didn't belong, like someone who knew the storm that was about to erupt. My wife's eyes filled with guilt, and though she tried to speak, every word felt meaningless in the face of what I had just seen. I could feel the betrayal sinking into my bones, a deep, undeniable ache. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted with every part of me, had let another man into her heart and into her life. At that moment, everything I believed about our marriage collapsed. I didn't confront her immediately. My shock was too heavy, my mind too clouded. After the man left, I stepped back, needing space, needing proof beyond the horrifying image burned into my mind. I began searching, not out of spite, but out of desperation for the truth. That's when I found it all. Text messages, photos, call logs. Each piece fit together, forming a painful puzzle. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It had been going on for months, all while I was working hard to build our future, all while I was planning moments like this anniversary surprise. Every word of affection she had spoken to me during that time now felt like a lie. When I finally confronted her that night, her tears came quickly, but they did little to soften the blow. She confessed that she had fallen out of love with me, that this other man had made her feel alive in a way I apparently no longer could. Hearing those words from the person I thought I would spend my life with was excruciating. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was the realization that she had been gone long before I knew it. The days that followed were filled with anger, confusion, and endless arguments. I wanted answers, but none of them mattered anymore. The damage was beyond repair. I couldn't look at her without seeing the betrayal. She had become a stranger to me, someone I didn't recognize anymore. And so I was left with the most difficult decision of my life, to stay and try to salvage what was broken or to walk away entirely. In the end, I knew what I had to do. Love alone wasn't enough to patch the wounds she had left. I chose to leave, as painful as it was. Walking away meant abandoning the memories, the dreams, and the life we had built together, but it also meant giving myself a chance to heal. As I left her father's house that night, I carried nothing but a broken heart and unanswered questions. Time, however, has its way of mending even the deepest wounds. Slowly, I learned to trust again, not just in others, but in myself. I discovered strength I didn't know I had. She reached out months later with another apology, but by then it no longer mattered. I had moved on, and I had no intention of reopening a chapter that had already been closed. What I came to understand through all of this is that love is fragile. You can give it everything, but sometimes it still breaks. Betrayal leaves scars, and though they may fade, they never fully disappear. Yet, those scars can also be a reminder of resilience, a mark of survival. If you've ever experienced betrayal, know this: you are not alone. It hurts, it changes you, but it also shapes you into someone stronger. Keep moving forward, because even after the deepest heartbreak, there comes a time when you'll rise again.